Welcome to Neutral Voices, the place where your voice matters. This is our amazing Voice of the People segment.
Yes, yes,
And tonight, we're going to be talking about anxiety.
yes.
And you know what? Instead of just our comments, we actually have guests in the house with
Yes,
us
we
that's
do.
going to
Yes,
share
we do.
their stories and how they deal with anxiety and help other people cope with
Yes,
anxiety.
yes.
So, just real quick, we had amazing conversation. I listened to the video, and you guys really had some serious
Yes.
conversation last night.
Yeah, it
And
was
so,
nice. It was nice.
yeah,
nice.
so if we can, before we do a quick recap, let's introduce our guests, please. So, everybody in the Flex Room, can you hear me?
Can you hear?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you hear them, guys?
No.
Okay, I can't really hear them. So, we're going to give you guys time to.
Yeah, we'll check
Yes.
on that technical issue.
Yes, I can't hear them.
Right.
Yes.
Just
So-
to recap a little bit, like you were saying,
Yeah.
we covered all angles, I feel like, of anxiety, from what it is to what it isn't, to not knowing what it is, to
Exactly.
why we seek help, why we don't.
Yes.
Just a wide array of conversation.
Yes, and there's a couple things I want to point out that you also talked about, but just real quick, did I get my sound back in the guest room? Okay, just checking. Somebody give me a signal so that I know when they are good to go.
Yes, yes.
And so one of the things that you talked about, or I should say, started the video that started out last night. I thought that was so cool to start with that
Yes.
video, and it was a video. You haven't seen it. Make sure you go click like and share and subscribe to our YouTube page so you can watch that segment. But it started out with the Iron Man having basically a breakdown.
Right.
Right.
And they thought they had everything covered. So if you remember or ever seen it, they had everything covered in building that suit,
Right.
except that one factor that can break you down, and
Right.
that was
The human
anxiety.
factor. Yeah.
You know, and so and so that's the way the video basically unfolded, and so I like that because even the Iron Man could deal with
Well,
anxiety and have anxiety.
Let's look at it from
Right.
this angle. This man has everything.
Yes.
I mean, he's rich. He's famous. He's he's known across the world, and
Yeah.
and even he had anxiety.
Right.
So anxiety can attack anybody.
Right.
And he was a superhero.
He was
Yeah, he was a
Right,
superhero on top of that. Well, so that
So-
should be the most thing I'll be having anxiety about. I gotta go save the world, but he just had anxiety sitting in a crowded room.
Right, and
Yeah.
I think
And
it's
so-
important to, I'm glad you brought that up, because anxiety does not discriminate. It doesn't,
Right.
anxiety doesn't care if you're a doctor or
That's
you're
right.
a pastor or if you're a student.
That's it. So I was
Yeah.
going to say age doesn't matter, race doesn't matter. And so another thing that you talked about, Jill, that I thought was really, really important to mention again was when you said, imagine, trying to explain what anxiety really is and what it feels like for those that has never experienced it. You said, imagine your greatest fear times 1,000.
Right, because I have actually used that analogy, to explain it to somebody who has no idea what I was going through.
Yeah.
So that's the best way is, to explain it, is
Honey,
take
it
your
was.
biggest fear and just multiply it. And imagine doing that once, like we talked earlier, that
Yeah.
you pictured that in your head,
Yes.
and it was almost stressful just picturing it one
Picturing it.
time. So
because
then,
my fear being darkness, and I'm trying to times that by 1,000.
Right.
That was overwhelming.
and then times it by 1,000, and then Monday, Tuesday,
Every
Wednesday,
day.
Friday. You know.
You have this
Yeah.
to deal with.
Yeah.
So, so many different things we could touch on. The lack of insurance, one of the reasons why a lot of children, especially in the black
Yes.
communities,
Yes.
are
Yes.
not being treated. They can't afford the therapist
Yes.
and different things like that. So, so many different angles. But Clarence, I know you had some awesome points too. So is there something that you wanted to touch on from last night?
Well, yeah, but I just got to be me. When you said magnify your fear by 1,000,
Yes.
my anxiety doesn't have to get to 1,000. You show me a needle.
Oh.
You show me a needle. man, it hits the roof right there.
I'm gonna test the theory
Man,
one
don't-
day.
We're
don't
gonna
test
bring a
that-
needle in
don't
here.
test
I'm
that
gonna
theory.
test
Don't
the
that
theory
theory.
one day.
Yeah.
Don't test that. But here's what we talked about, and Lady Moore was our guest last night.
Yes.
And we did
Awesome,
talk about in a
beautiful.
lot of
Thank
things
you,
that
Ms. Moore.
yes, we thank you. A lot of things that we don't recognize and that we don't do or we don't understand. It's us going through anxiety. Because she said she had to ask herself, would she tell
Just for clarification, when you say
us,
us meaning
individuals, us as individuals,
or black people.
as black people? as
Okay,
well.
that's the part I
That-
wanted to get
yeah.
out.
But we don't like to tell people, and we don't like to reach out for help because we don't want the people around us to look at us funny or differently
Treat us
Right.
because of our
Right.
stature, our popularity, or whatever. But we got to get past that, and we got to get the help. We got to remove us out of our own way and get the help that we need.
We do. And before we continue this amazing conversation, because there's so many other things that I want to recap from last evening, but we do have our guests with us, and we
Yes,
just want
yes.
to welcome them and allow them to introduce themselves. So, my beautiful people in the flex room, y'all ready? Y'all, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. So, if you can, just introduce yourselves, please.
Hi, I'm Ashley Scott.
Hi, Ashley.
Hi.
I am Delania Ayers.
Yeah.
Hi, Miss Delania.
I'm Michael Ayers.
Hello,
What's
Miss
up,
Delania.
Hello, hello. I'm Josie Watley.
Yes.
Yes. How are you, Miss Josie?
Thank you.
Good,
Thank you
That's good.
all
Glad
for
to have
being
y'all.
with us tonight. And so feel free at different points to jump in. And I like to say this because this is how I feel. We're having an amazing conversation with some great people.
Yes, we
And
are.
so
Right.
just make sure if there's something you hear and you want to chime in on that, then just speak up. Other than that, we're going to be hitting on some things, and I believe that each of you will be able to relate to
Yes.
something
Right.
that we're going to be talking about
Right.
tonight.
Right. I
You-
know
you
that
said-
several, a couple of you that are, with us tonight are either in the school system or work with the youth in the community. And I know that we touched on that a little bit last night. One of the questions that I have and a point that I want to make is I know that a couple of you said 20, 30 years you've been in the industry dealing with the youth. So my question is, what does anxiety or stress look like in the teenagers right now compared to what it looked like 20 years ago?
That's a good question.
That's a great question.
Great question.
Because I know it's different. So don't hold back. I think, I was going to say, I think somebody may be talking and we can't hear them again. But as they're getting ready to address that, I'll say for sure that since I've been in the school system for the last, since 1996, I will say that the students have a lot of different issues to deal with.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
things, and not just to pick on COVID, but because that is the latest thing. But then the shootings, mass shootings,
Yes.
that wasn't, going on as much. You just don't know what's going on nowadays. But just the whole presidential election and
Right.
the stress that
Right.
was connected to that, dealing with the orange one during a particular time, so there was a lot of new traumas
For sure.
and issues that young people had to deal with.
For
Well,
sure.
and then you also with the police shootings and
The police.
you scared to maneuver and go kick it with your friends
Right.
because you get pulled over. You don't know.
You don't know from day to day,
day to day,
whether you're
so-
going to make it.
Yeah, and I mean, I see the difference because when I grew up, we could have a car full of people and going somewhere and having some fun, and not worry about if we got pulled over.
Yeah.
And
Am I
this
gonna get shot?
this is
Right.
something that I know a lot of people don't like to talk about or they don't really agree, but I'm just going to put it out there and say that what Eric is saying is absolutely 100% correct, and that is one of the reasons why the anxiety in the black community has skyrocketed, especially since George Floyd.
Yeah.
And not only with that, but when you are white Okay, when you are not black, let's put it this way:
Okay.
when you get pulled over, it is a completely different story. And you're talking about somebody getting pulled over that has never done anything wrong, that has no reason to be worried.
But watch this, Jill, before you finish that, when you say getting pulled over, how about when they just show up behind you?
Or anything.
Right.
Or anything. Anytime
Right.
that you are in a situation with a police officer. So imagine being a teenager, so you already have that fear, but then you see a video like George Floyd. You're seeing it just like you're there. So you're not hearing about it. You are seeing it, you're watching it. That could be you. So that is an anxiety that white people do not have. I don't care what any white person says.
Right.
It is not there. And I think we have the room back with us. So just,
They're
can you
back.
guys hear us?
Can y'all hear us? We apologize.
Let's
Thank
try.
you.
Let's try this again and address the question about the youth from 20 years ago and how it looks today and how it's different.
Well, I'm just going to say that today's kids
Excuse me.
are having a harder time than when working with them 30 years ago. You know, it's just seemed more having to keep them settled and keep them focused, and their focus is really lax.
I think a lot of it is not only the pandemic, is social media. I'm finding in school a lot of my kids, you can't even have a conversation with them like, how are you today? How's your family? Just simple conversations without them looking at you like as if they don't know how to respond back because they're so accustomed to texting one another, or I don't know, all the language as far as cyber. I don't know that 'cause I'm in that 50 group.
Right,
But
but that's true. I mean, it's completely taken the
they-
personal aspect out of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Communication is
Right.
almost zilch unless I text them.
Wow.
You know.
That is so true. I didn't think about that.
Right, and I'm glad you mentioned social media because something I think about, when I was in school versus what the kids deal with now is back then, if you were bullied, it was usually just you and the bully that knew about it, or you and the bully and one other person. Right now, when you get bullied, there are 8,000 people that see that someone called you overweight or see that someone is making fun of your shoes. So not only one or two people are seeing it, but thousands of people are seeing it. So you're reliving that every single day.
Yeah.
Share this, share that. So that plays a huge role, I think, in anxiety in teens
It
as
does.
far as their confidence and their stress level. And we didn't have that back then.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I have a question to go along with that, and we were just speaking of it while they were getting everything together. Mr. Mike, I know you work with Parks and Rec, and I do believe two of our guests deal with children within the school system. But my question is, how do you see the pandemic socially giving or taking away or adding to the anxiety of individuals? Because some children, their escape was to leave the house to go to school or to leave the house to go to another place. What are you seeing in anxiety with the children being isolated?
Well, it's a hard setting. The kids are in front of TV all the time. Either if they doing class, doing virtual program, which we did virtual program at the Parks and Recreation. No movement. They do a lot of laziness, laying around, doing nothing. And when you isolate yourself in a room, you think of other things than positive things.
Yes,
Right.
Yes.
You
Now,
know,
So Mike, so how do you work with that when that is actually one of the symptoms of anxiety is wanting to be alone sometimes. That could be a case of severe
Yes.
anxiety, wanting to isolate yourself. So what do you do when you're dealing with a student like that?
well, first off, you pray. And,
Okay.
you put
Absolutely.
you put God in the middle of things, and let Him help you. With situations like that. The most important thing is just to give them confidence.
Okay.
Talk to them and reiterate to them the things that we have done in the past that we got to bring back to where we are now. Because they're opening up the community, so that give us opportunity to bring kids back into our centers and to the schools
Yes.
to where we're being more, together.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, because a lot of times when you're away from people, you forget that how to have conversation with each other.
Right,
Yeah.
for sure.
And I think, I'm sorry.
Go
No,
ahead.
go
Yeah.
ahead, sweetie.
One more thing that I think we have to remember and that people forget is that kids are still people, and we have to realize that they're going through something just like we are. And I think sometimes as adults we forget that they're going through something too, and it's probably harder for them than it is for us.
Right,
Right.
So I
exactly.
think coming down to their level and having those conversations and just seeing how they feel and remembering that they are people.
Absolutely.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
That's
Right.
Ashley,
You know what? Before you
ahead.
ask Ashley another question, you said something that was powerful, because one of the things that I realize is that a lot of times parents and people will ignore the young person, the teenager, and almost overlook that they're dealing with something because they feel like they're too
Right.
young to
Right.
have problems
It's just
and
normal.
issues until suicide or something close to it happens. And so we forget that they have a lot of responsibilities too. And now a lot of them actually work jobs, just
Right.
like we do. And
Right.
that was one thing that was different. I didn't have to work. If I wanted to work, that was different. But I didn't have to work when I was in high school, way back in 1983, 84. Okay, so there's a big difference, and so yeah,
For
So I just
sure.
wanted to point that out too.
I worked in high school.
Me too. Yeah.
And
I said
enjoyed
have
it.
to.
Right.
Nowadays,
They have-
some of my
exactly.
students say
It's a stress.
that they're basically helping to take
To
care
support.
of the home, and they have to support themselves. Back then, you worked if you wanted to, just because you wanted to get
Extra
out of the
money.
house and
Yep.
have fun and
Yep.
have extra money
Yep.
to walk
had to
around
buy
the
my
mall,
shoes and
etc.
clothes.
But nowadays, we actually have young people that have to work
Yeah.
in order to survive.
Yeah.
So to help parents.
Absolutely. Ashley, while you had the floor for a second, I just wanted to kind of touch on your experience a little bit that you shared with us earlier. And you had mentioned that on a personal level, you had been dealing with anxiety yourself. And you did get help for that. If you could just kind of break that down for me a little bit, let me know what you started feeling and how long it took you to go address that feeling.
So we started working from home right at the beginning of the pandemic. So like March, we were out of the office, and when we went home, I have 2 toddlers. So I was trying to be a mom. I was trying to be a teacher. I was trying to work all at the same time. And I'm telling you, as soon as it started, I was like, I gotta go get counseling, because I needed help navigating my day without going crazy, without taking it out on my kids, without feeling overwhelmed. I needed to talk to somebody to let me know, like, it's okay. This is what you need to do to work through that, and it's okay. Because I just felt really, 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 really overwhelmed with everything. It was hard to sleep. It was hard to. I just felt like I wasn't doing a good job, and it was really, really, really hard to cope with that. And
Right.
my kids are toddlers, so they don't understand why they can't go outside, why they can't have a birthday party. They don't understand. We just in the house together, 24/7.
Right.
You know what? Yes, and you know what? That's a good point. And actually, I mentioned prior about the parental paranoia, and I think that is definitely something that you may be dealing with. And a lot of times people don't realize that that's normal. For parents to be concerned, and I think the main thing is to have a good, wholesome idea of what worry is. But when it crosses over to where it's actually an anxiety attack, then that's where things get a
Right.
little
Yeah,
scary.
because I think nowadays, like, you think of, it's one thing when you think of your kids' first day at school, but then you start thinking about the other kids. Are they going to bully my child? Are they going to put them on social media? If my son in pre-K wets his pants, are the 6th graders going to come in and make fun of him and take a picture? And then I got the whole
Right,
world,
right.
looking at my child.
Right, and I'm glad you bring that up because I can relate to that wholeheartedly. especially when you have a child, because then you're responsible for someone else other than yourself. And something that I do with having anxiety myself is I will create situations in my head that sometimes are so far fetched from happening. Like when there were a lot of school shootings going on. So I was literally afraid to send my daughter to school because it is all I thought about for the entire day, even though I know the percentage of that actually happening. So here I am worrying about something that isn't even close to happening on that day. And, that's where anxiety goes from worry to an absolute terror,
Yes.
in just a few minutes. So I'm really
Right.
glad that you bring that up.
Well, first, Ashley, I have to tell you, I have anxiety. If I had 2 toddlers at home right now myself,
Stop
man,
it.
that would drive me nuts.
Clarence doesn't like
Right.
kids, though. Let's just point that out, remember?
Yeah,
Listen.
no, I'm not going to deny that. No, I don't like kids.
If I could, just real quick, this is the voice of the people, and we do have a comment from Terrence T. Hardy.
What's going on, T? How
What
you
up,
doing?
T?
Hey.
Hey, how you doing?
Terrence says we have to go back to the real way of handling. For starters, making rules and standing by them and being respectful at home.
That's it. A lot of people forget that.
Right.
Well,
That's first thing.
I'm not sure if I necessarily agree with that.
I
though.
agree with you, Ashley.
Because
Go with that.
handling things at home was different back then. A lot of times you had to stay quiet.
Mm-hmm.
But nowadays, I think it's important to let kids know it's okay to talk. It's okay to go get help. Like, it's okay to normalize not being normal all the time.
You're right.
And I feel like back in the day, what was anxiety back then? What was it really something? Sometimes I don't necessarily agree with that.
This
Right.
brings up a good point, and
Hold on. I want to hear Miss Delania.
Yeah, she was
had
going to say something.
Yeah, Miss Delania.
I'm sorry. I was listening to Ashley. I just think I totally agree with Ashley. Like she said, what is anxiety? I think back then when we were kids, our parents never talked about that, especially in the African American community.
That's right.
They might have told us, our uncle or aunt, once we became adults, was a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but we still didn't understand it.
Right.
I think it's more obvious now because people like us on TV is bringing things out that this is a reality, and it's okay to get not just spiritual guidance, but also get somebody like a psychiatrist to talk to.
Right.
Because in the Black community, a psychiatrist is a big fat no-no.
Right.
We don't
Yes.
talk about psychiatrists. That means we're crazy.
That's
Right.
That's
That
so
means
true.
we need extra help to sort out what we're dealing with and
Right.
be okay with that.
Right.
That's right. You know what? When I read this, just so we can kind of see from maybe Terrence's perspective, I don't know
Well,
what you guys see. You see something different in this?
I kind
I
of
do,
see
yeah.
sometimes we have to go back to the old school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I was going to say, so what do
You
you get
have
out
to,
of that when
because
you read that?
Back when we was young, we didn't see our parents partying. We didn't hang out in the same room when my aunts and them was playing cards. We was away from it.
Hanging
and
around
we,
grown folks.
yeah, we couldn't hang around the grown folks. We had to be outside.
Right.
And the difference today is the kids now going outside is a punishment.
Right, that's
Right.
true.
You see
Right.
what I'm saying? So we had to go outside and we had to, if we fail, it wasn't we taking you to the emergency room. You get you some aloe vera lotion or the plant
Right.
rubbing on your knee
Yeah.
and going back
Keep
out.
it going.
Yeah.
And so and we're going to get back into the room and,
Yeah,
and
'cause
hear
Mike
from
was
our
gonna say-
hear from our guests real quick. I just wanted to point out something about this. I was thinking what this person, Terrence, is saying is to establish a foundation of rules and different things at home, even if that means come to mama if you're having issues, come to dad.
Yeah.
In respect, we're going to get you some help. I'm not sure if that's where he was going,
That's a
and
valid
that's
Yeah.
why I
That's a
kind of
valid
agree
point.
with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So not sure, but let's take it back to the room
I
with
think
our
Michael was
guests.
gonna
Mike,
say
did you have something you wanted to add or say about that?
Well, I was just going to say that you always got to bring old school to the table. You
Okay.
always got to bring and teach our kids respect and discipline. And I think a lot of times our kids have the anxiety because we're not disciplining them. we're
There
not
you go.
making them be respectful.
Right, right. We're going to read a comment. If you guys want to address this comment for us in the room, Mildred says, "Weren't we overlooked growing up too? I remember kids were to be seen and not heard, so it was hard to express our anxiety. We were told to tough it up or pray it away."
I have a perfect example.
Go ahead.
So a member in my family, they had those rules. You got to get good grades. You got to be in before the lights come on. All of that good stuff. And because of those rules, this person had bad grades and they get a whooping or whatever. So 40 plus years later, this person realized, drug addictions, all types of things. 40 years later, this person goes to a therapist and finds out that they have ADHD. Had they had a different conversation back then on why were your grades this way, or tried to really figure out what was wrong, because nobody just wants to do wrong. I don't think so. But if they would have had a different conversation, maybe that life could have been completely different than what it turned out to be.
Right. Right, I agree. Josie, so you shared with us earlier that you've been dealing with anxiety on a personal level for about 5 years, and you mentioned that it took you a good year or 2 years to actually go and ask for help. So I kind of want to know, and I know that our audience wants to know, what kept you from getting help, and at what point did you finally say, I need to go do this?
Well, a lot of it had to do with just life situations. So I didn't think it was anything major. At the time, I was dealing with, it stems from bad relationships, the workforce, dealing with your kids, and just life situations just in general. So when I decided that I need to go get some kind of help, it was like when I was kind of went into like a panic attack, meaning like every time I noticed that I was in a conversation or a tense conversation and I get so excited trying to explain it, I would literally lose my breath.
Oh, wow.
So I had to just kind of stop the conversation, sit back, and relax. But in the midst of all that, I'm thinking, okay, this has to be something major going on with this, because there's no reason why it should get to that level where I would lose my breath. I know I'm not that excited to talk about something.
Right.
So,
Wow.
so therefore, when that happened, then that's when I just end up going to the doctor and telling him the situation and how I'm feeling about certain things, and then that's when he prescribed the medication, because he diagnosed me. That's what I was going through.
Okay. I do have a question with that for Ashley and Miss Josie, because you both spoke of getting help. My first question is, was there a stigma, or was there anything that you didn't, or any reason why you did not want to first seek help? Because like we say, in the black community, seeing psychiatrists, a lot of times we were told we have issues or problems, but we don't go see those. Did you have any stigma or issues? And what about the support that surrounds you? Family, I don't know if you're married or whatever. How is your support system as you go through with the anxiety and even the treatment?
I didn't have any problems going because I didn't want to be miserable. So, and I have a really good support system as far as telling me that it's okay to get help. I just felt like the therapist could give me something that, my friends or my husband couldn't necessarily give me or tell me,
And I had no problem going either. As soon as I felt like it was something major going on, that's when I went and sought help. But besides that, I just was going through everyday life situations, and I know I was dealing with a lot of personal issues. So I was just thinking, okay, well, this is stemming from this, just life situations and all the things that I was going through personally.
Right.
So I didn't think it was any major problem at the time until I faced an issue that I thought, something is not right with this particular situation. So that's when I sought help. But I never was embarrassed about trying to seek help or anything
Well, that's
because, you know, it's just part of life. And, you
Yes.
know,
Yes.
with life, we face all kind of situations.
We
And-
do. You know what, Josie? And I'm so glad you said that, and that both of you were, able and willing
Yes,
to go
yes.
and seek help. But one of the things that I have realized and that I see even in my own family is that a lot of people feel like they can't trust people to talk to, or let's just say if we wanted to send them to someone in a church, a lot of times people feel like, I don't want to talk to them because they're going to get up and next thing you know, I'm hearing about my issue in a sermon, etc. So what do you think, and if any of you can actually speak to that, how do you find a person to actually be able to open up to and to share your truth when you're dealing with these types of things?
Well, I have a lot of family support. I have a lot of close family members that I can go to and talk with, and they just give me good advice. They don't look at it like anything negative. They just
Right.
give me positive advice and let me know that it's nothing to worry about and you'll definitely be okay.
Yeah.
And I also keep God 1st.
Right.
So
Right.
that has
Absolutely.
a whole lot
Right.
to do with everything.
That's right.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
Okay, I was
you
going to say,
know.
because Mike, I heard you say something like that earlier, didn't you?
Yeah, no, I was going to say the same. And a lot of times you just have to trust the person that you're going to. You know how that person is. You know that person is going to be bond to you.
Right.
So when people have these kind of anxieties, find a person that you know you could trust. It don't have to be your mom or your dad. It could be somebody that you your mentor,
Right.
that you know for a fact that will, keep it confidential. I just think it's important, like Josie said, you just gotta, keep God in the midst of it. And it's just important that, I know I'm sounding religious and stuff because
Go ahead.
because I am. I'm just
Speak
letting you
it,
know
speak it.
I am. But God does mysterious things for people,
Amen.
and He makes it happen for all of us, and make us feel comfortable too, like these ladies was talking about, to go and seek help and get the knowledge that they need to take care of their family.
Right.
And that's the key thing. One of the key things that we got to look at: what's best for our family,
That's
and,
right.
and what we're going to do to better our life to make it happen for our family. Because it's okay to get help.
Yes, it is.
So please understand. I'm so blessed to have my wife. Of 25 years, just to say that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
Yes, that
congratulations.
is.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah.
Yes.
But she's a great listener,
Mm-hmm.
and we believe in one another, and it's good to have that, in your life. So
That
That is
Thank you.
wonderful.
Listen, thank you for sharing that, because I was just going to ask you about men coping with anxiety. And I know last night they mentioned dealing with a spouse with any type of anxiety
Right.
or those type of issues and how you deal with that. And I personally can say, it wasn't the greatest for me having to deal with it. And and to hear you say what you just said, having somebody that has your back, that you can communicate
Right,
with
right.
and talk to and believe in you, that is very important as you deal with anxiety.
Right. That's everything.
And just marriage, period.
Yes.
Relationships.
We do have a comment, and it's actually directed at the room. And she says, I hear you, Ashley. Speak to us. And Miss Josie, I'm glad you both got help. And as a community, it is okay to get help mentally.
Yes.
I do want to touch
Shanita
on.
Brown.
Shanita.
Shanita Brown. Yeah.
Thank you, Shanita.
I do want to touch on. I'm a spiritual person and I put God first. But when I began counseling, I did not want to go to a pastor per se,
Okay.
because I didn't necessarily want to be like preached to. I wanted to know what was wrong with me. And I
Right,
didn't
right.
want it to always be, well, pray your way through, pray your way
Uh-huh.
through. I know I need to pray my way through, but tell me something else.
Yes.
Tell me
Right.
what I have. Tell me what I need to do besides pray, because I already know I need to do
Yeah,
that.
that's a
Yes,
great,
yes,
great
That's great. That's
statement.
great.
And it's true because Christians go through things, believers, etc. And so, but I'm like you because personally, I can say I realized that there was something wrong with me,
Right.
because of my terrible sleeping habits and a whole lot of other things. And then so I later found out that I personally suffer from high functioning anxiety, and not that I've gone to a doctor and take meds or anything, but the truth is when you look and you know that there's something abnormal,
Right.
it's good for you to start
Right.
doing some research so you can find out when I need to go and get help and talk to someone. The danger is when you feel like there's nothing wrong with you and that you don't need any help.
Yeah,
when you
that
don't need to talk
that's
to
huge.
anybody.
That's huge, and we want to thank the viewers for being with us tonight. And I also have just for you guys in the room, if you could give a piece of advice to our youth or the adults in our community that maybe feel like they are struggling with anxiety, what words can you give to them to encourage them to maybe seek help?
I like to say especially for the youth who is suffering from this, if you are in the school system, there's always that one teacher or cafeteria worker, whoever you're close to. Find somebody that you can trust and you can go to, your counselor. And don't be afraid to let the adults know what's going on with you, because there's a lot of us, especially if you're in the school system. If you're not in the school system to help a kid, you're in the wrong place. So anytime a kid, especially nowadays, because we're dealing with suicide, suicide rates is up this year.
Yes.
We're dealing with all different types of ADD and all this other stuff you're diagnosed with, and these kids feel helpless. But we in the school system are here to help you. Find that one teacher or whomever staff person, and be okay to come to us and say, hey, I think something's wrong with me. And then allow us as adults to be able to reach out and find this help for you.
Thank you for saying that as
Absolutely.
somebody that has.
Oh yeah, working with
Oh,
the youth
absolutely.
for sure.
I got to
Thank you.
shake
Did
up the room
anybody-
real quick because
Okay, I
everybody.
didn't know if anybody else had something
Yeah,
to say
no.
on that.
Then we're gonna get out of here. I just got to
Okay.
shake up the room real quick.
Oh, boy.
Now, Mr. and Mrs. Ayers, me,
Oh, he gonna shake it up.
yeah, me being a person that's been in the.
Oh, please don't.
Oh my
Not
gracious!
shit.
Don't even want to hear this crap.
Once a week
Come
is
on, come on,
enough.
come on. Let me do it.
No.
Now, see, I've been in the same relationship since the 5th grade. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Call the paramedics.
But my question to you two, because both of y'all are people that people come to, and they have deal with issues. How do y'all manage to deal 25 years? I'm sure it hasn't been, smooth the whole thing, and I don't know your relationship, but in every relationship there has to be a few bumps. How did you know that you two could talk to each other, work things out, and deal with each other, knowing that y'all have all these other stresses from other people?
You want to say first who it is? God.
We go to our separate corners.
Yeah, we do. And we respect each other's boundaries. We respect each other on a professional level. Mr. Ayers and I can be in a professional setting. You'll never know we're married.
Wow.
Because we focus on just that. Especially a lot of times it's around kids.
Mm-hmm.
We stick to that professionalism. And when we get home, he's my best friend. And we know how to go in our separate rooms. And we know how to join together. And we've been together for so long, we don't even have the time to disagree. Because
Wow.
it's too many things to try to work with.
Right.
Especially nowadays,
Right.
And then the one thing I want to say this is, we let the youth see the love.
Yes, absolutely.
wow.
We don't.
Yeah,
we don't.
that's what.
It's not a fake, and seeing kids understand when it's fake.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
we know for a fact that we got people in our corner that seen how we was and what we did. That it was original.
And I like to tell everybody, Miss Ashley, I hate to call her out, but I love her like my daughter.
Yeah.
I've been with her since she was an 8th grader.
Wow.
And she is now a mother of 2 beautiful boys and married.
Yeah.
And to see her grow from an 8th grader to a woman now, and she's very successful, I am super proud of her. So she is just a product of what I love to do.
Yeah, well, that's good. That's
Wow,
good.
that
I'm
is
happy
so
for you.
beautiful.
Congratulations.
Ashley.
Yeah, we want to thank,
Wonderful.
you know,
We do have
everybody.
another comment. We can read this one comment, and then we're gonna keep moving.
Okay, go ahead.
This is from Pastor William Curry. It says, as a pastor, I would want you to come to me, not just for prayer, but to show you also in his word that anxiety was experienced throughout. I would also advise them to get help as well. That's good. That's good. And
Very good.
We talked to a pastor last night, and he said the same thing. And I would hope more pastors are that flexible and that open,
Absolutely.
to be able to now to accept the fact that it's beyond them at some point, and they'll be able to get that.
Exactly, and pointing out in the Bible when it says, "Peace be still."
Amen.
Amen.
Yes, in the midst of the storm, he
Stand
was
still and
sleeping.
see the salvation.
No, when to be still. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Amazing show.
We thank y'all.
Yes, thank all of you for sharing and being transparent and giving advice. And before we close,
Yes.
we have something else that we want to do, and I know y'all looking for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't see it right now, but you will see it later. Thank you for hanging out. This is Neutral Voices, and stick around for a few minutes. We have something else for you. We'll see you next time.
I remember the day when I stopped to let go of the past and the future worries. When I ceased and desisted spooning with fear in her obedient crew. In that moment, I chose to start learning from it and not living in it. I am learning to forgive myself and to stop reliving the past, the guilt, the pain, the regret, and the anxiety that it brings. And from that day until this and beyond, I am forever growing into the understanding of celebrating my journey's growth. But in all that we have shared with you tonight, there's nothing more profound than the Word of God. We find in Philippians, the 4th chapter, verse 6, "Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus."